Welcome to another plant-based cooking class. I finally figured out how to get my phone sideways, and I think that I have it flipped the right way that you can actually read what this says rather than having it backwards. So let me adjust this just a little bit. Hopefully you will be able to see everything. Welcome. As I already said, very excited for today's class. We're doing breakfast foods, which are some of my favorites. These are two of my favorite recipes. I am going to, really quick, I've got my computer here. I'm going to put the recipes right now into the comments of this video so that if you didn't get the recipes, you can have them there. So if you're watching live right now, could you let me know if you can read this, if it's the correct direction or if it's actually backwards, because I think I can flip it. So let me know while I put our recipes into the comments. And then we'll get started right after I do that. So there we have, there's our first recipe I just posted. And here is our second recipe. They're in the comments. Okay. Now I think it's the correct direction. So let's go ahead and get started. Just two disclaimers though. Today my neighbor decided to re-roof their house. So if you hear that noise, hammers, that's what that is. I apologize. Also, there are two sleeping cats right here. So I will do my best to get those distractions out of the way if they interfere. So now let's get started. The first recipe we are making is our vegan and gluten-free 7-ingredient blender waffles. And I also figured out how to get all of my appliances up closer so they're not behind me anymore. So here we have our blender. You don't need a high-speed blender like the Vitamix to make this recipe. You can use a blender, whatever one you have. Just need to make sure that it is large enough since this does make a decent amount of batter in here. Don't need any bowls or any spoons, just the blender, just your waffle makers. I have two here. You can barely see them in the bottom of the screen, but I have two just to make it go quicker for us. And hello, welcome to all you that are just joining us now. Hi, Susan. I can't actually see who's watching the video live unless you comment, so I can see you if you say hello to me. Let's go ahead and get going with our ingredients. So first one on our list is the oats. So I'm going to measure in, this is a 1/2 cup measure. I'm going to measure in our 2.5 cups into the blender. I think that was 5 scoops, right? Were you counting? Here, but no sound. Does anyone else have a problem with the sound? Or is it just Diane that's having an issue with the sound? Can you hear me? Let me know. So I'll continue on if you hopefully can hear me. Got my oats. The next thing I'm going to do is add water. I use this out of our filtered water and I didn't fill it up yet, so I'm going to fill those up. I don't have sound on my cell, but I have it on my laptop. Oh, okay. So maybe on the laptop it works, maybe the phone doesn't for some reason. Diane, let me know if you can't get it figured out with yours. I hear you. Oh, good. Thank you, Claudia. Good. I'm going to fill up water. So you might not hear me anyways because I won't be talking. I've got the water. Okay, sound is good. Thank you, Doug. All right, got my water now, 2.5 cups. Pour that on in. Okay. Next, we're adding in our ground flaxseed. So I have the Bob's Red Mill brand. You can get whatever brand you like. Just make sure that it is the ground flaxseed. I know that Trader Joe's sells it. I just bought some yesterday. So here we go. 1 tablespoon in and 2 tablespoons in. Not an exact measurement if you were watching me seal that guy up. The next ingredient we're gonna do is, I'm actually gonna do the dry stuff first. So we've got cinnamon and salt, ground cinnamon here first. We're doing a half teaspoon of our ground cinnamon. Right on in there. You can do more cinnamon if you want. You can do some other spices too, like a little bit of nutmeg or clove can be nice. Not too much of those, but a little bit could be nice. I like cinnamon best. And then next we're doing our salt, just a half teaspoon of that one as well. Okay. And then we've got the vanilla extract. We're going to do also a half teaspoon of that. There we go. I have used almond extract before in these. That tastes good as well if you like almond type of flavor. Our last ingredient, of course, is our bananas. And on the recipe, it does say 1 large ripe banana. Large is a very ambiguous amount, so I do have the amount in grams written on there if you really wanted to measure. It doesn't matter that much how much you put in. So this is about an 8-inch banana, and to get to 160 grams, I'll probably need about 1.5-ish. Of the size of bananas. I do have my food scale here. I'll be using this for our next recipe. If you don't have a food scale, I suggest you get a food scale. They are pretty cheap. I think I got this from Target maybe years and years ago. OXO brand, OXO, like $12 or something, and it is so helpful with many recipes, especially baking type of recipes where you do need to be a little more specific. So, going to use this one. I don't know that you can really see that quite, but I'm going to use this one and peel my bananas. I do have a trash over here. I'm not just throwing banana peels on the floor, in case you're wondering. Okay, so our banana here, the 8-inch banana, is about 120 grams. Which is what I assumed it would be. Just break it up into little chunks. Doesn't really matter too much. And then the second banana, as I said, I'll probably need a half, a third of it. So another 40 grams. It's 50 grams. Doesn't really matter that much. I'll set this guy aside for later. Let me rinse my fingers. It's so much easier doing these cooking classes in my own kitchen where I can just wash my hands off, but then you guys don't get to taste it, so it's kind of a double-edged sword. All right, we've got all of our ingredients into our blender, so I'm gonna put the lid on and blend. Because this is a little bit closer to the camera, it might get a little bit loud. Usually when I do it behind me, it's not very loud, but I apologize if this is loud. Turn your speakers off now if you're concerned about it. So here we go. My cats are both sitting right here and they're probably gonna go flying out of the room. All right. Oh, I turned it off. There we go. Oh. Hold on. Okay. I think we're good now. There we go. have to turn on the power strip behind me. All right, so just getting it going a little bit. Let me get it up a little bit higher. There we go. And that's all that it really needs. Oops, forgot to put my phone on airplane mode. How about porch pickup samples? Yeah, I'll give you my address. You guys can all just swing by my porch and I'll give you each a waffle and a scone. How about that today? Just kidding. No, we're not doing that. Anyway, you don't need to blend this for very long. It doesn't take too much. Let's see if I can show you the consistency. So kind of liquidy. I don't know if I can open that up, you can see. Kind of liquidy, but we are going to let it sit for a few minutes off to the side. And I am going to move our blender because we don't need this guy anymore. While this sits, then we plug in our waffle irons. If you have one or two, however many you have, go ahead and get those guys plugged in. I can figure out which way these cords go. There we go. These don't take very long to warm up. People keep texting me. I'm sorry. I hope you're not hearing that. These will just take a few moments. So while those heat up, make sure that you do have some oil nearby if you use oil spray, or if you have just a jar of oil, like I just have avocado oil here. I do find it helpful to do a little bit of oil on the waffle irons, on the waffle irons before pouring the batter in, just a tiny bit. Otherwise, they do tend to stick a little. Let me move this out of our way as well. I also, meanwhile, have some toppings that we're going to prepare while waiting for these to heat up. So I don't know what kind of toppings you guys like. Let me know in the comments what you guys like on your waffles. In our house, we tend to do some form of nut butter, like almond butter. That's my favorite, or peanut butter. That's my husband's favorite. We also usually do fresh berries of some form, which I have here that I'm going to cut up a little bit. Banana slices are also good. My husband likes applesauce on his as well. Maple syrup, of course. But let me know if you have any other preferences. That's kind of the gist of what we do. So just a few, I've got berries here, so raspberries, blueberries, and strawberries. If you want to get really fancy, you can make a little strawberry flour. Leave the stem intact and slice through. You can make a little strawberry flour. I don't know if you can see that very well. And then we've got the rest of our berries we can just slice up. Our waffle irons are almost heated up. I can see. I don't see anybody commenting on what you like on your waffles. I want to know. Let me know. Whipped cream. Whipped cream. Yeah, I do like whipped cream on waffles sometimes too. There are vegan or non-dairy alternatives in stores these days. They do have that. But you can also make your own. You can make your own with coconut milk is what I've made it with. My hands are really dirty now. You can do it with coconut milk if you refrigerate your coconut milk overnight, and then usually you need to invert the can and open the bottom of it. It's whichever side it separates with the liquid and then the cream part. So you take out the cream part and then you can whip it with an electric mixer and add a little bit of powdered sugar and sometimes vanilla, and it turns into like whipped cream. I don't have that recipe right here for you, so but I've had it on waffles before. If you saw the post that was a reminder for this class, the waffle picture in the background does have that coconut whipped cream on it. Whew, these are warm. Okay, so these guys are ready to go. I'm gonna pour just a tiny amount of the avocado oil onto my paper towel and just brush it lightly. I don't want a lot on there. They'll probably stick a tiny bit, and that's okay. They are pretty easy to get out. If you notice, there's really not any fat in the waffle recipe. So that's why it is a little bit more helpful to have some oil on your waffle iron. Most waffle recipes actually do include some sort of oil in them. This one does not. So we just pour directly from our blender, which is very convenient for cleaning purposes. Oh, try not to make a mess. Pouring straight from our waffle or from our blender. It is a little bit, it's not like totally smooth batter. It does have some texture in it, which is kind of nice. I like it that way. Okay. There we go. So these are gonna take just a few moments to cook. So let me I'm going to sort of tidy up my space while we wait for those to cook. Got our fruit ready to go. So no one else told me what they like on their waffles except Susan. Anyone else? Or do we all just agree that those are the best toppings? Okay, got my peanut butter. This peanut butter, if you're wondering, is from Trader Joe's. We usually buy Trader Joe's nut butters, peanut butter, almond butter. This one is the salted version from Trader Joe's. Give it a little stir. Whew. I don't think, can you see the steam on there? It's very steamy. Very steamy over here. And I do have a note on this recipe that these waffles do freeze very well. I have it at the bottom under the notes. They last great in the freezer. So what I do is I get one of those large gallon size zip top bags, and you can just stack the waffles in there, zip it up tight, and put it in the freezer, and it does last for weeks in there. And I just take one out as I want one and use it, or to reheat it. I usually put it in our toaster oven. You can put them in a toaster, but only half of it is gonna cook at a time. So a toaster oven is better. It gets them crispy again, which is nice. Crushed pineapple. I have never had crushed pineapple on a waffle before. That is new to me. We actually have some fresh pineapple in the fridge. That would actually be pretty good. Hold on a second, there's a cat. Excuse me. Okay, that would make great company. Taken to a Friday, yes. Okay, I think our waffles are done. They are very steamy, so we'll check this one first. Maybe not quite done. Not quite done. Those need just a couple more minutes. So we've got all of our toppings ready to go. Is anyone making this along with me? I send the recipes out a few days ahead of time so you can cook along with me if you want to, but I never know if actually anyone is. It's kind of in that brunch realm right now, so probably most people have already eaten. getting in the way. I apologize. Okay. Let's see now. Almost. They're still cooking. I was wondering where your cat, oh. Yeah. I'm trying to keep my cats out of the frame as best as I can, just in case people do find them distracting. Yeah, trying not to make them very visible. I'm doing my best. Okay. I think I probably needed just a little more oil on my pan. There we go. I got one out. Okay. And then this guy. Yeah, so I would recommend using a little, there we go, a little oil if you have it. Okay, we made it. I'm just gonna make these 2 waffles for right now. Turn off my waffle makers. So this is what our waffle looks like. It is very hot. There we go. Ta-da! All right. Okay. So then we just make it however you like with all of your toppings. Spread on some of the peanut butter. Pretty much I'm making lunch for myself right now. In case you were wondering, I will be having waffles for lunch. There's our peanut butter. And our toppings. So I have berries, the strawberries, bananas, blueberries, raspberries. Just add as you like on top. Make it look pretty however you like. Maple syrup if you want as well. And then our little flour strawberry. Right there on top. So there we go. Make sure they don't fall off. There are our waffles. Whew. So I'll enjoy those later. Any questions about that first recipe, please let me know. Type in the comments while I am moving aside these items, getting ready for our next recipe. And did you know, oh, let me see here. It's certainly an adjustment working from home. Oh yeah, yes. Usually when I do a cooking class in the office, I don't have cats interrupting. So it is much different here. Yeah. Okay. There we go. Any other questions at all? I don't see anything. So we're gonna move on to our next recipe. The next one we're doing is a little bit more towards the dessert realm of things, I will say. But I love this recipe so much, so I'm very excited to share it with you. We're doing the vegan and gluten-free lemon blueberry scones. There are quite a few unique ingredients you'll notice. And I'll get to that question in a second. There are a lot of unique ingredients in this recipe. I have made it with all-purpose flour so that it's not gluten-free. It's just regular vegan, but it doesn't work as well with the all-purpose flour. I like it best with all the gluten-free flours. So that's why I have all of it, all these different things. It's the way that it tastes the best. You can find all of those ingredients at a store like Sprouts or Whole Foods. Trader Joe's, I believe they have, I know they have almond flour, but I don't know if they have any of the other types of flours or the starches. So I'll show you all the bags that I have for these ingredients. Claudia had a question about the waffles. Can you substitute banana? So the answer, I guess I would say, is probably. I don't know an exact substitution for that. Probably you could substitute in, I would try maybe more oats or something like cornmeal to give it some more of the volume, but you do get some of the sweetness from the bananas into the recipe. So other than that, there's really nothing sweet going in to the batter, so you may need to add a sweetener. That's kind of the beauty of the banana as the ingredients. You don't have to add an extra sweetener to it. So I don't have an exact answer for that. I apologize. Bananas are the best way to go. Applesauce, you might be able to do applesauce. I have never actually tried it that way before. I know that in some recipes you can use applesauce as a substitute for like oil, that sort of thing. But I haven't tried applesauce in this recipe before. So if you try it, let me know. All right, now moving on to our scone recipe. The first thing we're going to do is preheat our oven. I'm gonna step 5 feet over there and preheat our oven because I am gonna bake these things. All right, so I've got our oven preheating right now. I won't have enough time to bake them all the way right now, but I do already have some that are already baked that I can show you after I put our batch into the oven. Unless you want me to just stand here and talk to you for 24 minutes while they're in the oven, but probably a lot of you have better things to do than that today. All right, let's get our ingredients. So this is all the things that we're going to be using. Got my avocado oil. I do need our flaxseed again. And of course, our salt. And here are all my pieces of equipment. So the blueberries, I will put in at the very end. I keep those in the freezer until I'm ready to use them. So I suggest when you make these that you do the same. The blueberries will start, of course, to thaw and they get more moist from the blueberry juice, the ice around them. So we try to keep them frozen as long as possible so they don't turn everything blue. So this is the little bowl that I'll use for the blueberries. When I'm ready, I'm gonna set this guy off to the side. I do use a food scale for most of this recipe. You'll find that it is so much easier to use a food scale than to use the measuring cups for a lot of your ingredients. Just in general, if you're making this or any other baking recipe, a food scale is much more accurate than measuring, especially with flours, and so much faster. So turn our little food scale on. I've got my bowl so that you can see through it. I hope you can see that. First thing we're gonna do is our brown rice flour. So this is the brown rice flour. I think you can see it the correct way. I hope it's not backwards. I use Bob's Red Mill brown rice flour usually. You can order it online from different stores. They also have it, I believe, at Sprouts and at Whole Foods. Also, probably Lassen's as well. So I'm going to do, if you're measuring, it's a cup. If you are weighing, it is 160 grams, which, as I said, is so much easier. All right, here's our 160. Next ingredient I'm going to do is the almond flour. This ingredient is much more common in a lot of stores. As I said, it is in Trader Joe's. It also is in Sprouts, Lassen's. You may even be able to find it at somewhere like Vaughn's even. Actually, I think Target has this as well. Obviously not the Trader Joe's brand, but I think they have almond flour there. So this is the one that I use from Trader Joe's. If you have a choice between like fine, medium, coarse ground, I would use the fine ground. And we're doing 1/4 cup or 28 grams if you are weighing. There we go. And if you are weighing, if you're over by a gram or two, it's not the end of the world. Next one we're doing is our tapioca flour. So this, I also have Bob's Red Mill. I got this one from Sprouts. Tapioca flour. Sometimes it's called tapioca starch, but a lot of them do have it as tapioca flour. So we're going to do either 1/2 cup of this or 60 grams. Almost there. And you'll also notice in the recipe that it says the 1/2 cup plus a 1/2 teaspoon. So the 1/2 teaspoon doesn't go into our mixing bowl. The 1/2 teaspoon, which is this guy right here, 1/2 teaspoon is actually going to go into your little bowl that you're going to use for the blueberries. I like to coat, whenever I use berries in a recipe, I like to coat them with a flour of some form. Helps it stick to the rest of the batter and also help absorb some of the juice that the berries have so it doesn't turn everything blue like we said. Next ingredient we're doing is our potato starch. So this one looks very similar to the tapioca flour or the tapioca starch. Bob's Red Mill again. I believe I got this from Sprouts as well. So we're doing 1/4 cup of this one, or 48 grams. Yeah, so I had a brain spasm there. Or 48 grams if you're weighing. There we go. Okay. I'm trying not to get this all in my face when I close these bags. The next ingredient we're going to do is our sugar. I also weigh this one as well, 1/4 cup or 48 grams of sugar. I have made this recipe with maple syrup before instead of using a sugar. This is the sugar I'm using. You can read that. It's kind of got a glare on it. There we go. Organic cane sugar. I have used maple syrup. It does change the texture just a little bit. So you can do it that way, but you may need to also then reduce some of the water since it's more liquid. This, I think, gives the best texture and the easiest product to work with. So we're doing 48 grams or a 1/4 cup. There we go. Next ingredient we're doing is our flaxseed, our ground flaxseed, just like we did with our other recipe, ground flaxseed. This is an ingredient, if you don't have it, you really should get it and start using it in a lot of different recipes. Ground flaxseed is great for our health. It has omega-3 fatty acids in it, which is good for our heart health, good for our overall health. A tablespoon of this a day would be great. For men, ground flaxseed is very good for prostate health. So actually up to 3 tablespoons a day you can do if you are male. Just a little extra info for you. So we're doing a tablespoon of this or 7 grams. I measured this one too just because it's easy. Okey-doke. And then let's actually do the rest of our dry type of things. So I've got baking soda, just good old, where is it? There we go. Regular old baking soda, nothing special about this one. 1/4 teaspoon of it. right on in there. I don't measure that one just because it's such a small amount. And then our baking powder as well. I spoon this one in too. So we're doing 2 teaspoons of this. There's 1 and 2. Okay. Let's do our salt. We do a 1/2 teaspoon of our salt. This is just regular table salt, by the way, not anything special. When I bake, I usually just use regular table salt. Personally, I like the pink Himalayan salt if I'm eating something that I want salted. I like the flavor of that one better, but we all do need a little iodine in our diet, so I always use the regular table salt with iodine when I bake, just for that reason. Okay. Next ingredient we're going to do, I kind of skipped around in our list, I know, but this is a very unique ingredient, the Xanthan Gum. You can get this. This is an old package, so it looks different these days, but you can get this, again, at stores like Sprouts, Trader Joe's, Lassen's. You may be able to find it somewhere like Vons, possibly. They don't have it at Trader Joe's, I believe. But those other stores, yes. There's a question. Measuring scale. Does the scale do the math for the bowl? And I guess I should explain them at the food scale better. So it has an on button as well. The on button on mine is also a 0. Let's see if I can get it correct. A zeroing out type of button. So when I'm going to move the camera so you can actually see better. There we go. So when trying to get it right, when you put the bowl on, you can push this button and it will zero out your scale so that you can add ingredients, whatever I'll add to spoon. It adds just the weight of what you put in. I hope that helped. Sorry, the camera angle was a little bit wonky, but hopefully, did that answer the question? I hope you could actually see what I was doing. Okay, so back to the Xanthan Gum. Thank you, you're welcome. When you are using or doing a gluten-free type of recipe, there is a reason that I'm using so many different types of flours, because one gluten-free flour is not the same as just all-purpose flour. They all have different properties, and there's nothing that is exactly the same as regular all-purpose flour. So the Xanthan Gum, to be honest, I don't even know what it actually is. It's what plant or whatever it is, but we use a tiny amount of this, and it helps with the crumb and the texture of our baked good. So we use just a small amount, and the amount varies between different types of products. So cakes, you use less than like a scone. Cookies, they're all different, which it tells you on the package. But for this recipe, we do use 1.5 teaspoons. So I'm gonna put that in. There's 1.5 teaspoons in. And let me show you what it looks like. It's just it's a white powder. It looks like a flour. You can see that. So it's just powdery, kind of like baking soda, baking powder. It's that similar type of texture. To me, it smells kind of like glue, I guess, for lack of a better word. That's kind of the smell that it has, but in a baked item, you don't taste anything like that. It just helps with the texture. So we've got all of those dry ingredients in here. The last thing to add, somewhat dry, is lemons. Now, I do have written that you use a tablespoon of lemon zest into this recipe. I don't measure specifically usually. Most of the time I just kind of zest whatever I have. So today I've got one regular lemon and then this little tiny Meyer lemon that I just wanted to use up. So I am going to use both of these, and that'll probably be about 1 tablespoon. If you have a large lemon, that usually is a tablespoon. If you have 2 medium sized ones, that will be a tablespoon, but a big guy usually will do enough. I'm gonna do the Meyer lemon first. So this tool as well, this is called a microplane. I love this. I've had it for years. They're great. They have very, very fine grating on it, very fine grating board on it, and it just zests very finely for you. If you have kind of the old traditional, like a box grater, those are fine too. If it has the little fine mesh part on it. So when you are zesting the lemons, try to only get the yellow part. You don't want to start zesting into the pith. So the white part of the lemon, that is very bitter and does not taste good. So when I zest, I leave really light yellow color. So if I were to, trying to zest it so you can see better. So you can see that right there, some white is coming through. You don't want to see that when you're grating into here because that's the bitter part. We want it to be the sweet part. So I'm going to get rid of that. I'm going to do my regular size lemon. Meyer lemons and regular lemons do have a little bit of a different taste, but I'm pretty sure everyone watching right now lives in California, so you probably already know that. My mom will possibly be watching this later. Hi, Mom. And we don't really have Meyer lemons up in Oregon. So when I moved to California and I was introduced to Meyer lemons, it was a totally different world. I really like using Meyer lemons in a recipe like this. In baked goods, I think that the Meyer lemon adds a really nice flavor, but we're using both, which will be nice as well. So we've got all of our lemon. I don't know if you can see this. We've got all of our lemon zest in there, probably about a tablespoon. Again, this doesn't really matter that much. You just want enough to taste. Okay. I don't need my food scale anymore, so I'm going to set that guy aside. I'm going to grab a whisk and we just mix it up a little bit. Whisk all these together, and then we have just a couple wet ingredients. Just whisk until everything is sort of uniform. Get the flaxseed mixed around. You won't be able to see the different types of flours and powders and salts in here, but do your best to get it mixed evenly throughout. Okay, so that is kind of what we are looking for. Don't need our whisk anymore, we're done with that guy. Next, I use a wooden spoon for the rest of my mixing, okay? We're going to do the water first, 3/4 cup of water. I'm gonna put that in here and I'll be right back. All right, I do like to use filtered water for my recipes when I cook or bake. So we're adding our water in first. 3/4 cup. Next, we're going to do our oil. I prefer using avocado oil. It's very neutral. It works well at higher temperatures. You can use other types of neutral flavored oils. Canola oil is fine. Sunflower Sunflower oil is probably fine as well. Olive oil does have a little bit more of a flavor to it, so I probably would stay away from that. Avocado oil is my favorite. This is the brand that I have. There are several types of brands out there. I actually got this from Trader Joe's. I think it's about $8 for this bottle, something like that. Avocado oil is a very healthy oil in the realm of oils. We're gonna do a 1/4 cup. I accidentally made this recipe last week without the oil. I totally forgot the oil and it does not taste the same. It is not, we still ate them. We still ate scones, but they were much drier and had slightly less flavor. I have not tried using a substitute like applesauce that you sometimes can do for oils. I haven't tried that yet. If you do, let me know. It would be great to make a scone recipe with reduced or none. Probably reduced would work better with reduced oil. So that's in our bowl. And I think that was all except for the blueberries. So mixing this with the wooden spoon or whatever large spoon, spatula, whatever you have, that will work. Just not a whisk. A whisk will not work very well for this because it does get pretty thick. Okay. And the beauty of making a gluten-free recipe is that you don't really have to worry about over mixing it much because there is no gluten, obviously, in a gluten-free recipe. When you're making a regular, a recipe with like the regular flour, over mixing can be a problem because you're developing the gluten as you mix it more and more, and that can make it the product tougher when you over mix it. So we don't have that issue here. You do want to try to get these into the oven decently quickly because there is baking soda and baking powder, and those activate once they're wet. So as soon as you can, get them into the oven. I'm going to grab our blueberries so that we can mix those in. Again, I left them in the freezer until the moment we need to use them because I want them to stay frozen. These, again from Trader Joe's, these are wild blueberries, so they are slightly smaller than, they're slightly smaller than regular blueberries, you will notice. I'm going to do a 1/4 cup. Woo! Blueberry explosion. I'll clean those up later. Okay, so we've got our 1/4 cup of blueberries. I'll show you how small they are. So these little guys, little tiny blueberry, oh, can't see that, little tiny blueberries. I just like them in a recipe like this, so you kind of disperse the blueberries a little bit better. And sometimes they are in little clumps from the freezer, so I like to break them up with my fingers ahead of time so that they're not stuck together when going into the recipe. Almost there. And if you remember, this little bowl over here does have that 1/2 teaspoon of tapioca flour in it. And we're going to mix. Ooh, my hands are very purple now. I just kind of stir them around so that they're coated with the tapioca flour. Like that. Just sort of evenly coated. Add them in to our batter. Gently stir those guys in. It will probably dye your batter a little bit, but I think that's kind of nice, just have a little bit of the purple streaks. This batter is ready to go. You can see sort of the sticky consistency of it. Okay. And I've got our baking sheet with the parchment paper all ready to go. Get some of these things out of here. Now for these, I do actually use a 1/3 cup measuring cup to portion out my scones. I find it easier to use this so that I get decently uniform sized scones. So the recipe makes about 6. If you make some that are a little bit smaller, you might get 6.5. So this is about the size that we are looking for. Okay. Place it on our baking sheet. I am gonna do all 6 of these for us and put them in the oven. Because of the little bit amount of oil in the recipe, it does come out of the measuring scoop pretty easily. So when I tried making this recipe with the regular all-purpose white flour, I found that the batter was way stickier and it was much harder to handle, and they did not hold much shape when they were baked. So that is why I just prefer using the gluten-free flours. My husband and I both agreed that the gluten-free one is better. So, and it's easier to make. So I'm just rounding these into just a little of a dome so that they have kind of a nice shape. And it looks like I may get 6.5 scones here. Try to kind of get the blueberries even throughout. Your hands will get messy during this part. Okay, there's another guy. That one's a little bit bigger. There we go. I'm gonna get 6. Perfect. My hand is purple now. Okay. There we go. So I place these just a few inches apart on my baking sheet. I'm using a smaller baking sheet just because I know that this recipe doesn't make a lot. They don't spread out much. I will show you our finished product here in just a moment. Let me rinse my hands off really quick. Okay, are you all worried about my melting blueberries over here that I dumped? It's okay, it's on the towel. It's an old towel. So these are our scones. Make sure they don't slide off my baking sheet here. Here they are, okay? So I'm gonna put these into our oven, which has preheated to 400 degrees. Let me pop those in right now. And those will go for 24 minutes and then take them out. And they'll be very, very lightly golden on top, not baked super hard, very lightly golden. You can let them cool for a few minutes on the tray if you like, or if you really want, you can immediately just slide them off onto a wire rack to cool. We found that these scones do taste best when they are more like room temperature, so eating them while they're still kind of hot is not as good as when they've cooled down a little bit. So while those bake, let me grab my already made ones so you can see the finished product. Don't go anywhere. So these are the finished scones. Okay, about the size that we put them into the oven. Okay, And I will open one up for you to see as well. Try not to rip it all the way in half. There we go. So this one actually has a lot of blueberries in it. So this, where's the camera? This is the texture of our blueberry. It kind of looks like a dice the way that the blueberries are. But this is the inside texture, our finished product. So as I said, 24 minutes, those will be done. Let them cool. I usually store these in an airtight container, like a large Tupperware type of container. Store them in there at room temperature. The recipe does only make 6, so they go pretty quickly. They won't be in your kitchen probably for a week or 2. They last for a few days, no problem. You can definitely make them a day ahead of time if you want to take them somewhere. They do hold up pretty well. Any other questions about the scone recipe? Let me know in the comments. I'll give you just a moment. I will be back again with another plant-based cooking class in 2 weeks. I have not yet decided what recipes I'm going to make, but I have a few in mind that I would love to share. If you have any requests, please let me know. You can email me or write in the comments. I would love to know what kind of foods you want to make or would like to know how to make that are vegan. Next week we have yoga again. It is Memorial Day on Monday, so we have a special yoga time. I believe it's at 10 a.m. And then on Wednesday I will be back for another beginner full body workout. This class, as I said, 2 weeks from today. If you don't have any more questions, then I guess I will say goodbye. If you do have questions that you think of later, please write them in the comments. I'll be able to see them later on and can write back to you. If nothing else, I loved having you in class, and I will see you soon.